Welcome to Trading the Close on this Monday. I'm Toni Valliere with Verified Investing, and here's what's making headlines today. Meta announces it will partner with external hardware companies, including Lenovo, Microsoft, and Asus, to build virtual reality headsets using the company's Meta Horizon operating system. Delta hikes its pay wages, which includes 5% pay increases for flight attendants and ground handlers. Delta is the most profitable U.S. airline. Former President Donald Trump is set to receive up to 36 million additional shares of Trump Media after trading closes Tuesday. The shares would be worth around $1.25 billion of current prices. Tesla cuts prices for many of its vehicles in the U.S., China, Europe amid slumping sales. And the U.S. House of Representatives passes a bill that would require TikTok's owner to sell the social media app or see it banned in the United States. Let's get a check now of where things stand just minutes before the closing bell. We are seeing the Dow up more than 240 points, 0.63%. We're seeing the NASDAQ up more than 178 points. 1.17%. The S&P 500 up more than 41 points, 0.84%. U.S. oil is down slightly. Gold down more than $62, and Bitcoin is up more than $1,500 at this time. Let's get a check now with Chief Market Strategist Gareth Soloway of today's trading. Let's start maybe with the S&P and go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So today is an up day, which is a change. We haven't seen an up day in a while. All of last week we had down days. Interestingly enough, I know you've done the Winning Traders series. You know about time counts. Today would be the time count.
7?
That's right. That's right. So again, we'll look at the intraday first, but we opened higher today. And again, listen, we saw this massive selling pressure on Friday. The chips got absolutely annihilated. So there is still the buy the dip mentality. It makes sense that we'll still see little bounces. So we opened higher. We faded a little bit, and then we had this beautiful run, and again, starting to see a little profit taking into the end of the day. Tomorrow morning, UPS, General Motors reports tomorrow, so there's a lot of companies before the open, and then Tesla obviously after the bell, and that's going to be a big one.
Okay.
We'll touch on Tesla in just 1 second. Let's just quickly go to this chart. So if you look at this chart, we had a very clear support level. I talked about it this morning and even last week. Right there, you could see price on the S&P came right into it, and we're getting a little bit of a bounce. The thing is, we've broken the uptrend. So like I've said to you many times, is like you should generally expect us to rally up, and then eventually I think we start to break lower again. So again, the uptrend here, and this was such an obvious uptrend, right? So just a constant up, but once that breaks, you have to be on high alert that we're now in a sell the rip environment versus a buy the dip environment, right?
Yeah, and you've talked about all of this happening.
That's right. We've play by play, Monday through Friday.
Yes.
Both in the morning and Monday through Thursday with you in the afternoon. We've talked about this and really guided investors to expect this rollover, and it's come true for sure.
And even the slight bounce, and then you expect it to continue down.
So I think for the most part, we want to see, do we create a bear flag, right? So in general, and again, there's nothing says that it has to happen this way. It's all about probability. But what I'll be watching is, do we kind of go like this and then create that bear flag pattern that then breaks to the downside? And that would be the indicator. Like we get that bear flag, it'll shift probabilities much more that we're going to see that breakdown in the near future. And so I'll kind of update you guys, obviously, every day we have Trading the Close on what to expect with that. Now let's flip over to Tesla real quick, because as bearish as I am on the markets, in general, I'm kind of, and again, it's scary ahead of earnings to be like bullish, but you don't get a better trend line than this. And it's not to say it can't fail, right? It's all about probabilities. But when you take the low from the COVID crisis down here and you extend it to the low from late 2022 when the stock market bottomed, we actually tagged this level today right here. And so again, if there's any place for Tesla to bounce, this would be it. And what I really look for is sentiment, right? If you look at Tesla, I mean, how bad is the sentiment right now? I mean, they're cutting prices. Everyone is like, no one wants EVs anymore. And when I hear that, my bell is going off in my head saying, wait a minute, everyone's so bearish. Imagine if Elon Musk just comes out and says something slightly positive where it's not quite as bad, that sets up for at least some sort of technical bounce. And again, maybe it doesn't happen, but that's in general, being on a key support with that sentiment indicator, it makes me a little bit more bullish than bearish going into earnings tomorrow after the bell.
And that's been the pattern too.
That's right.
along the way.
Absolutely. So every time we hit this line, we've gotten a significant bounce. So our job as technicians isn't to overthink it and just say, okay, well, listen, this in general, we should get some sort of bounce to the upside. And again, will it be interesting to see? And this, the amazing thing about this is that we're going to know tomorrow after the bell, right? Probably on this show, we'll be covering Tesla as it's moving on earnings, so we'll be able to watch it live to see if that happens.
For sure, and that's going to be exciting. But I've got to ask you too, let's look at the opposite. Somebody may look at this and say, oh, you've been hammering down on this line.
Right.
Why are we looking at it differently?
So the key is, just like a doorway, eventually you do break down. So if we have a line like this and you come into it, generally you bounce 3 times. Once you get to the 4th bounce, so after the 3rd bounce, it's usually a smaller bounce, and then this is usually where we can break down. So in general, if you looked at 100 or 1,000 of these charts, the 3rd hit of the line, 1, 2, and 3, you should get, and again, I say should because nothing's in stone, but you should get some sort of little bounce, and then my guess is that 4th or 5th time we do break to the downside, and that again goes back to calculations and looking back testing how many times on a trend line like this do you bounce. So yes, there's a chance that you could break down on earnings, but in general, probabilities probably favor a slight bounce, maybe a 10% bounce, and then eventually my guess is the market rolls over more, and that's going to be too much for Tesla to kind of fight against, in my opinion.
Okay. Something to keep in mind,
Yes.
for sure. Tesla was one of the big market movers. Nvidia, Verizon, Informatica, Coinbase, Cardinal Health,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
Supermicro.
Yeah, and
just
so
a few.
So let's talk here. We have Nvidia getting a little by the dip today. So again, big flush, 10%. It makes sense that it could get a bounce. The kicker here is, though, if we look at this, there's a very clear resistance now, right in here, right? So all of these lows where you went up and hammered, right? And then, by the way, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it broke. So you can see how on the 3rd hit right here, or actually even that was right here, you kind of still got your big bounce. But then once you hit too many times, it starts to break lower. Now the key is that this is resistance. So if we trade back into this 840 level here, that likely now becomes major resistance to reject price to the downside. So in general, might bounce a little bit more on this chart, especially if we get some decent numbers from Tesla. Maybe it puts people in a better mood. But again, later this week, we got Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet. We'll have to see again. Some of those charts, we are into resistance. We can cover them in maybe tomorrow's episode.
Okay.
And then let's quickly talk about gold and silver, right?
Please, yes.
So I love this because, again, it just showcases the power of technical analysis. So as bullish long-term, and we've talked about this, you're very clear on saying, Gareth, I know you're bullish long-term, but what is the chart saying near-term? And I would say every time, this candle right here, topping tail reversal candle, right, which is bearish, right? It's a big B right here for bearish. Well, again, for a few days, the bulls were still trying to buy and jack this up, but it never took out that high of that candle. Today, we get a big down day, down $63 on gold. So a big drop there. In general, it probably is not done. Doesn't mean we can't get a bounce. You do have a little support. You can see all these lows right here, right through here, if we kind of flip it right through there. So there's a lot of little area of support here. If this area gives way, then we probably have our next dip. And eventually, I still think that you're looking at this area around 2,200. That would be an area where I would start to accumulate all the way down to about 2,100.
Okay.
So there's a zone, right? And again, the zone from 22 to 21, probably a buying zone. This, again, was the signal that told us it was likely going to come down, and that probability is so far playing out.
That's what's happening.
And the
but
same
eventually, in the long term.
That's long term, I still think it goes
looking-
up. And the thought process behind the long term, it's very fundamental. It's just like, if you have so much printing of money, and again, the Fed is trying to stop, but they can't stop. I mean, there's just no way out of this debt fiasco that's been created. The government, I mean, what are they going to do? If they stop printing and taking on debt, then there's going to have to be massive austerity measures, which means they're going to have to cut back everywhere, which is going to crush the economy, which means the fear trade for gold goes up. If they keep taking on debt, gold goes up too, because then the dollar is worth less. So it's kind of like either way, we're kind of screwed, but we have an alternative. We have gold, or we have Bitcoin technically, for the longer term as well.
Digital gold.
Exactly. And silver, same sort of thing, got absolutely crushed today. There's your topping tail right there. It touched the triple top at 30, and there's your rejection. Very defined level here for a buying opportunity. It's right around 25.50. There's even a little area around 26, so this would be my buy zone on silver should it retrace into that level. So it's fun, man. There's lots of action in the metals, in the crypto markets, as well as in the stock market right now.
Are you bullish long-term silver as well?
I am, for the same reasons. Now, again, the silver difference is that it's it's like 60% an industrial metal. So yes, it's a store of safety, but it's used in so many different things. So if the economy or the global economy slows, then it'll be a little harder for silver to get its momentum. But for the most part, the bigger picture over the next 10 years, yeah, I'm very bullish on pretty much all metals.
Okay, and lastly, we do need to touch on Bitcoin. We had the halving on Friday.
Yeah.
What kind of impact did you notice?
So to be honest, I don't think you could say there was much. I mean, I think it was so everyone knew it was coming. A lot of the action happened earlier on, and the biggest thing here on the chart is that we're now stuck in a range, right? We hit our support level right here. We have our confirmed resistance level here. Again, we hammered, and broke, right? So that same kind of, and again, folks, remember that this is something that just replicates. There's a reason why I drew that earlier and showed you guys when you hammer a certain amount of time, eventually you break. Well, here it is again. We broke above, hit, broke, right? So now, once we confirm below this orange line, this now becomes resistance. So you have support line here at 60,000, resistance at about 68,000 right here. So again, we have a very defined, and this is at 60. So essentially as a trader, now I'm in just waiting mode. I'm waiting to see, are we going to break here? In which case, I think you zoom up and tag the all-time highs, maybe even go higher. If we break 60, then you're talking that 52 to 49 zone down here as technical support.
Which would be a nice buying
It will be.
area,
Yes.
right? Okay. Awesome. Gareth, thank you so much. We appreciate
you.
it very much. I do have another guest, so stick right there. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. Remember, though, you can catch Gareth navigate the charts in real time every weekday morning right here on the Verified YouTube channel. It starts at 9 a.m. It's his show called The Game Plan. So again, you can catch him navigate the charts in real time every weekday morning. My other special guest today is the CEO and founder of Calaxy, a social marketplace built for creators by creators. Solo Ceesay is joining us this afternoon from Houston, Texas. Solo, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So happy to have you. Calaxy is a Web3 focused app that allows for crypto or NFTs to be exchanged. So let's start with the most well-known cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. We had the halving on Friday, and we just had Gareth show us the chart of where Bitcoin is currently at. What do you make of Bitcoin's value today, and where do you see it headed this year?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. First of all, obviously, thank you for having me. I'd say a hell of a lot higher is definitely where we think Bitcoin will go. But all jokes aside, I mean, I think we've seen a lot of different, a lot of different viewpoints come out of the woodworks over the last couple of days. We had the halving event that happened late last week. It's largely been, what would say, a lot of people would call priced in, just given that it's something that people have been looking for a long period of time. But it's super exciting to see now that we have different stakeholders within the ecosystem. You have a lot of this institutional demand now that this ETF product is here and allowing people to get their hands on crypto, which has been a real difficult challenge for Wall Street for a long period of time. So seeing that different dynamic is, definitely a nice supportive factor for the fundamental picture of the asset class moving forward.
So what are some cryptocurrencies that you feel aren't getting the recognition that they deserve?
It's tough just because there's a lot of different verticals within the world of crypto, right? Like the crypto landscape is much more than just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of these other, popular coins that you're hearing about today. I think what you've been seeing a lot of right now is obviously a lot of energy in meme coins. And the reason for it is obviously a lot of these products and these projects really do lead with the power of the community and really do prove out the value proposition of crypto when you really think about it. Understanding, and while a lot of people might be quick to label these meme coins as lacking utility or not really serving a true purpose, what these meme coins really do stand for is what the power of the community can do, and being able to initiate and create a world where you can have collaboration, finance, and trade, based off people having and coming together with like ideals. So it's been very exciting to see some of the proliferation of these meme coin communities as retail starts to enter back in the ecosystem at higher asset prices for Bitcoin.
Let's talk about Calaxy. Explain how it came about and what unique service you provide to influencers.
Yeah, absolutely. So Calaxy, we call ourselves the social wallet, founded in partnership with my co-founder Spencer Dinwiddie of the Los Angeles Lakers. And so what we've become known for over the past couple of years is our creator monetization tools. We decided to take something like the crypto wallet and have it serve a real purpose or have it solve a real world problem, which is helping content creators get paid. And so on Calaxy, creators are very easily able to set up their own digital storefronts, sell those digital experiences, things like video calls, video messages, all these different types of products, and ultimately monetize through the use of their wallet. And fans can, easily come to the platform. They're not, required to pay with crypto, so it's not this, intrusive big deal. But it allows us to use the power of blockchain to facilitate these peer-to-peer payments and really expand that beyond just, content creators monetizing. People can use it to send crypto back and forth to each other within the messaging part of the application, like you would any social app. So it's a lot like that Venmo style, product as well. And so just, super exciting times to build some of these technologies and make them have real world utility.
Explain who the app is truly for. I know there are a lot of creators and influencers, so what qualifies them to be users of Calaxy?
Yeah, well, any content creator that really has an audience that's looking to customize and sell different types of experiences to their fan base is really what we've made Calaxy for. But beyond that, within the world of crypto, I always joke with a lot of my friends is that I have a lot of friends that are deep in the industry, but if you had to ask a lot of people when the last time they used crypto to pay a friend back for anything, it usually was all too long ago. We're not using the technology as much as Bitcoin can go touch all-time highs until we start to have usage. That's ultimately the biggest the biggest restraint on the upside potential for this technology. And so within Calaxy, it's really meant for everybody. Your grandmother could use it to send $20 of Bitcoin to her friend because it's as easy as a text message. We don't really have that technology. But also within the ecosystem or the application with a social layer attached to it, you can do things like send crypto from one user to another directly in the application. And so there's a lot of different use cases, but the one that we've been most commonly known for is for helping influencers monetize their audience.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. Talk about the safety, because that's always a concern for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you use things like decentralized technologies and the immutable nature for it, we can really get into a world where we can have provenance and things like, that we care to track on chain. And so what Calaxy is really aiming to do is bring real life on chain and make doing things that in the world of Web3 are, kind of difficult to do right now. It's great technology, but, the usability isn't quite there yet, given the products aren't there. But using blockchain and creating those user experiences so it's easily accessed by these new audiences in the world of Web2. But also being able to leverage the benefits of immutable blockchains and be able to point to the fact that, hey, as a content creator, I can point to this transaction secured on chain, and being able to prove out that you've been able to complete a service and receive payment for that service as well. Making it very difficult in a world where pay transparency is not as easy. Sometimes when you're working with marketplaces or platforms that help facilitate these types of deals, it's a lot harder for creators to know how or when they're going to get paid.
I'm still trying to understand Web3, so if you could simplify it, put it in layman's terms, explain what makes Web3 unique and the value that it provides for users.
Yeah, I mean, I think, going back to what I was speaking about with meme coins, the world currently, as we, spoke and, as Gareth spoke about earlier, with the economic status of where we're at, centralized banks and governments around the world have a ton of power over, how we assign value to things. And so the world of Web3 really speaks to the power that the common, individual or the person or the community could really have in facilitating and creating the grounds for ultimately collaboration, finance, and trade. And so, otherwise stated, be able to, create a group of people who are identifying or relate to or buy into a certain set of ideals and principles, now have the technology with the use of distributed ledger technology and the use of the internet. People with all of a sudden a phone can now create their own monetary systems that can facilitate things like finance and trade. And Web3 is the proliferation of these technologies showing up in other parts of our life, things like helping a creator getting paid, maybe be able to settle a, property transaction on real estate. It's really bringing real life on chain, as we like to call it, at Calaxy.
I like that a little slang there. Okay, where do you see our economy headed this year? Do you see it headed into a deep recession anytime soon? And do you feel that crypto is able to weather a recession or a bear market better than traditional stocks?
It's tough to say when you're, better, right? Like, I think your time horizon is super important when you're looking at anything and assessing value and assigning value to anything. And I think what Bitcoin has shown over time is its resilience to fighting things like inflation out of control. Even with the crashes and even with all the volatility, it's still proven to be a better store of value. It's verifiably scarce. And it can't easily be created by any one party or managed or manipulated by one party. And so I think there's a lot of power in a lot of value in a technology like that. I don't think humanity has quite unlocked all that power in a novel and a beneficial way to really communicate or show the true power of a technology like that. And so to answer your question, over the long term, absolutely. I think blockchain and Bitcoin in specifically is alien technology. We're talking about a technology where if the world lost access to internet, all of a sudden, one computer coming back online, you couldn't destroy the records, everyone's money would be safe. It's something that is a technology that could potentially even outlast our, civilization. And so there's a ton of value in a technology like that. I think just the usage of it is, what needs to get approved upon. And so companies like Calaxy definitely have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and that could be an issue, losing internet. That could be a big problem. Solo, where can people go to find out more about Calaxy?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty out there. I'm on social media, so you can find me on X. You can find me on Calaxy, funny enough. But you can find me on X, on Instagram, at Solo Ceesay on Twitter, or X, sorry, and at solo.ceesay on Instagram. But also you could follow us on our blog.calaxy.com, as well as us on social channels. But yeah, we're pretty much pretty easy to find.
And I hope courtside at all Lakers games, right next to Jack Nicholson, right?
Right there, every time, right in center.
Supporting your partner. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Solo. Wish you all the best. And I do want to thank all of you for watching Trading the Close. We will see you back here tomorrow. Make it a great rest of the day.